Do you think that college coaches only care about your exit velocity, arm velocity, and your 60-yard dash time? Think again. If you or your son wants to play baseball at the next level in college, he needs to make sure that he's checking these 8 boxes. And by the way, most players are missing more than a few. So let's break them down right now. I'm Evan Mendoza, and I played D1 baseball at NC State University before getting drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals and playing 7 years of professional baseball. Now, I help high school baseball players and parents navigate the college recruiting process the right way. And real quick, if you like this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Only if you want more baseball development, mindset, and recruiting videos sent your way. Not coming from an untrusted influencer. All right, first and foremost, baseball IQ. Coaches love players who make smart decisions out there on the field, obviously. Whether it's knowing when to take that next base, or how to simply just position yourself on defense, or simply how to read the game or prepare mentally for the ball coming your way. These are all things, honestly, you just cannot teach in today's game. Of course, you can teach exit velocity, you can teach arm velocity, you can teach sprinting faster, right? These are all things that you can ultimately teach. As far as the baseball IQ, the deeper understanding of the game, to understand when to take that extra base. Guys, great story in spring training. This is honestly the way that I was able to make a huge impact to the major league coaching staff at the highest level, right? So I was brought on my first ever spring training season. It was 2018, I believe. And I was backing up Paul Goldschmidt all the time at first base, even though I wasn't even a first baseman. It got me playing time, it got me at bats, and more importantly, in Clearwater against the Phillies, I remember I pinch hit for Goldie. I got an infield single. It was a little dribbler down the third baseline, but ultimately that was with 2 outs, right? The first 2 outs were really, really quick. The next batter right after me was Max Schrock. He got 0-2 really, really quickly with 2 quick fastballs, and I really anticipated a dirt ball. Right then and there, I anticipated the dirt ball. I got the dirt ball read, and I was able to take that extra base, and it was a huge, huge moment. I remember Mike Schilt right after. He's now currently the San Diego Padres manager. He came up to me. I scored right after on the next pitch. Schrocky, drove me in with an RBI, but ultimately this was a huge moment that really stood out in these big league coaches' minds, that I was able to be that well prepared for when my name was called. And it wasn't by hitting a huge home run or throwing the ball extremely fast, across the diamond. It was simply the fact that I was ready and I was prepared to take that extra base. I was thinking the game, and I think that made the world of a difference in further opportunities being able to back up Goldie in more spring training games. All right, number 2, work ethic. Talent will only get you so far, and coaches want players who ultimately grind before and after practice, in the weight room, and yes, even in the classroom. Guys, your work ethic separates you more than anything. And quick little story about my time at NC State when I was transitioning from being a pitcher to an infielder. Guys, it took countless hours when I was by myself in the shadows, working out in the weight room, in our cages, in the automatic feeding cage, where I was able to hit off the machine until 2 o'clock in the morning. Guys, this is the work ethic that ultimately got picked up on very, very slightly. Sometimes there was a late night where Coach Hart or Coach Avan peeped their head in and saw who was hitting at 1:30 in the morning. And I kind of thought to myself, like, what are you guys doing this late at night? But at the same time, they were so curious, who in the world is hitting? And I think it was only a matter of a couple of times they saw that work ethic, they saw that drive, they ultimately believed me a lot more in my passion for wanting to play, my passion for getting better, and ultimately that work ethic is going to be huge, guys. So don't dismiss the fact that yes, you do have to work hard if you're trying to play baseball at the highest level, and if you're trying to become a starter at the D1 level. Guys, there's so many high school baseball players. I think there's 500,000 high school baseball players, and only 7% of those get to play college baseball at all levels, D1 all the way down to JUCO. And guys, on top of that, only a select few play at the D1 level, and only a select few of them actually start on their respective teams. So think about the work ethic that really you need to make sure that you're presenting, not only with your talent and your skills, but your desire and your passion to be better than what you were yesterday. All right, next up, speed and athleticism. And you don't have to be the fastest player on the field, speaking from experience, but you do have to show that you can be explosive with all of your movements. And if you can run, they are always going to find a spot for you out there on the field. And guys, when I was getting drafted in high school and going through the draft process, process. I didn't get drafted out of high school, but I did out of college. And speaking from some professional scouts, speaking from some players that went through the draft process in front of me, what I heard as far as conversations go, sometimes these professional scouts, these professional teams will sometimes sign a player just because they can ultimately run a little bit faster. If you have a player that can run a 6'5" second 60 who plays a good shortstop, compared to a 7 flat 60 who plays a good shortstop, sometimes that 6'5" guy will ultimately get paid sometimes 100,000, 200,000, maybe even 300,000 or more in their signing bonus, just because they're proving to not only these college coaches but also professional scouts and organizations that they are ultimately an athlete. So it proves that not only at the college level, college coaches love athletes that can be explosive in their movements and can run fast. And this is just a tool that the game is going to be speeding up no matter if you like it or not. And if you are an athlete, if you can run fast, they're always going to find a spot for you out there on the field. Next up, your leadership and attitude. How do we react to failure? Are you the teammate who's lifting up others as they're failing, or are you the guy that's slamming his helmet in frustration? I'm gonna be honest with you guys, college coaches notice this more than anything. And this is probably the single most important thing when college coaches attend your game specifically. They want to see how you react when you fail. And this is totally normal because baseball is a game of failure, and ultimately your character has to mesh in with the team, and the team has a culture in itself, and everyone wants to make sure they're on the same page. And if a college coach doesn't necessarily think that they're gonna, you in particular, or maybe your son, wouldn't necessarily mesh in with the team culture, it wouldn't be a good culture fit. So these are the things that ultimately matter the most when college coaches are attending either you or your son's games, to show that leadership, to show a good positive attitude with our body language, and not to slump our shoulders when everything goes bad, but more or less think it's gonna be okay, have a smile on our face, and always think that we've got the game, not necessarily figured out, but we wanna make sure that we have this positive mindset, we're optimistic, and if we strike out, we're not gonna beat ourselves up, because that's gonna happen a ton in professional baseball, college baseball. It happened a ton for me, and obviously how you react to that failure matters the most. And guys, I think in professional baseball, I've struck out over like 383 times. If I, slammed my helmet every single time, number one, it would get really old to a lot of my teammates and coaching staff. And number two, I probably would have gotten cut and probably wouldn't have played professional baseball for that long. Now, if you want your high school baseball player to play at the next level, schedule a call with me down below. So that way I can help introduce him to college coaches the right way. All right, next up, your grades and your academics. Yes, guys, your GPA, your SAT score, all of these things matter to college coaches. And this is an easy way for a line to be drawn right through your name if you don't have a GPA requirement for that specific university, or if you're just showing lack of responsibility in the classroom. I'm not gonna go super detailed into GPA, guys, because I don't wanna bore you, but having a bad GPA can ultimately write you off from a college coach's list before they even watch you play. A good GPA, on the flip side, it just makes it that much easier for college coaches. All right, next up, versatility. Can you simply play multiple positions? If you can help your team win in various different ways, your value is going to ultimately skyrocket in the whole college recruiting process. And this is exactly what my mindset was going through the recruiting process. I was a two-way player, and I focused on both of them, not just pitching, but also my glove and my defense, because I knew that this gave one scholarship position to me, but really two positions for them, and the value that they saw in me being able to play two positions, not only pitching extremely well in high school. Honestly, I was more known as a pitcher in high school than an infielder, but this was ultimately giving them an understanding that yes, I can do both. And it turned out to be the best decision ever, going in as a two-way. My freshman year, pitching didn't really work out, even though I was dominating in preseason and in fall ball. But once the season hit, pitching did not work out. And then sophomore year, I was able to make that transition to a third baseman. That's when I was second team All-ACC, and this is the reason that I got drafted and had such a successful professional careers, because I had that drive to not only switch positions, but ultimately NC State, the reason I chose them is because they they had a track record of liking two-way players, but then also playing two-way players. And this was something that obviously weighed heavily in the whole recruiting process when I had multiple offers on the table. So being versatile is huge. And I honestly wouldn't be sitting here today talking to you guys if it wasn't for being versatile, playing multiple positions. All right, next up, coachability. Do you listen, learn, and adjust? Players who argue or roll their eyes or don't take any feedback in this game are not going to last very long. This ultimately sums down to when you're getting any type of instruction, whether it's on bunt D, first and thirds, anything really, you want to be able to implement whatever the coach is telling you right off the bat and not wait 2 or 3 or 5 different reps later until you're able to actually get the information and implement it into whatever the coach is trying to instruct you. The sooner you're able to implement it, the faster that feedback loop is, the better off you'll be in the whole developing within a college program. And obviously, if a high school coach sees that you don't have the coachability skills to play at that next level, these are things that college coaches are going to ask on a phone call with either your travel ball coach or your high school coach to see if you even have the coachability to play D1 baseball. And last but not least, projectability. Coaches aren't looking at who you are today, they're looking at who you can ultimately become. Strength, growth potential, and work ethic all play a significant role in this process. And ultimately, this last one is probably the most important, guys. Your projectability is something that you'll hear constantly in the college recruiting process because this ultimately matters a ton. Again, it's not who you are today, but it's who you're going to become. And honestly, when I was in high school, I was more of a pitcher in high school, but obviously I projected out to be much better than just an 86 to 88 mile an hour right-handed pitcher. I showed signs of being athletic in the middle infield, and I continued to show that potential in college to professional scouts. So again, it's not who you are or what you are today, but it's ultimately who you're trying to become and the work that you're putting in. Obviously, the work ethic plays a huge role in your projectability because, again, guys, it's who you're ultimately becoming. If you, let's say, for example, you're 6'4", 120 pounds, you're super lengthy, but you're not too strong right now, you don't have a ton of muscles, you're projected to be potentially like a pitcher, right? Let's be honest, a lot of pitchers are lengthy. You could be a first baseman potentially one day, but again, this is all your projection of what you could possibly become later down the road. So obviously, what you are and who you are today does not fully impact who you're going to be tomorrow, but it does play a significant role in the whole college recruiting process to make sure that these college coaches understand who you will become in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. That way they can best understand their depth charts, they're able to prepare that much better, and ultimately they're gonna know what mold you're gonna be able to fit into their depth chart, their team, their chemistry, all of that. And again, you have to be projectable. So there you have it, guys. Those are the 8 things that college coaches are actually looking for in the whole college recruiting process. And it's not just simply about stats and metrics. It's about being the complete package. The more of these 8 traits that you check off, ultimately, the more attention you will get. If you or your son wants to know exactly how to reach out to these college coaches, that way he's able to develop his skills, get that exposure, and land a scholarship to that next level, make sure to check out this full video for a step-by-step guide.